Everyone. Good evening, everyone. The May 21st, 2024 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy. Ms. Bartholomew McCoy is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. Chairman Mafucci.
Here.
Chairman Mafucci is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Mr. Udelson is excused. President Roman. President Roman is present.
Will Legislator Baines please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Legislator Baines. Pat Gooch, Senior Planner for Monroe County's Planning and Development Department, will now give us a brief overview of the 2025-2030 Capital Improvement Program as it pertains to the Ways and Means Committee.
Thank you, Chairperson Mafucci. You should all have received a copy of the County Executive's recommended 2025-2030 CIP. The Monroe County Planning Board reviewed the County Executive's proposal, held a public hearing, and prioritized budget year projects before the CIP was submitted to your honorable body. At the full legislature meeting in June, you'll set a public hearing for July, and then, upon your favorable review, vote to approve the plan. There are no funding approvals associated with taking action on this referral. We're going to take a few moments to look at the recommended capital improvement program in terms of funding sources, budget year funding, and the budget years 2025 in this situation. The 2025-2030 CIP has 159 projects over a course of 6 years and is summarized in Table 1 on pages 4 to 5 of the CIP. The total recommended program funding is $589 million. Total county funding is just over $276 million in the recommended CIP, which is approximately 47% of the total. There are two kinds of county funding, bonding and county cash. Projects that use county cash are paid for out of operating funds and do not impact the county's debt. Total district funding is used by the Pure Waters program and accounts for almost 34% of total CIP funding. There are two kinds of district funding, bonding and district cash. Projects that use county cash are paid for out of operating funds and do not impact Pure Waters' debt. Enterprise funding, or user fees, represent hospital, airport, and solid waste. They account for 6% of the total CIP funding. There are two kinds of enterprise funding as well, bonding and cash. Projects that use cash are paid for out of operating funds. State and federal funding is used at Monroe Community College, the airport, facilities, traffic engineering, highways and bridges, the sheriff's programs. Together, state and federal funding account for almost 13% of the CIP program. In this version of the CIP, there's $81,000 of private funding in the CIP for the Weiler Road Bridge over West Creek project in the town of Hamlin, a 91-year-old bridge. This project is being funded in part from the town of Hamlin. Table 2 on pages 6 and 7 of your CIP lists 76 capital budget projects that were ranked in priority order as determined by the Monroe County Planning Board. 2025 capital projects will require over $90 million in total funding. Chart 2 on page 3 summarizes the estimated debt service during the program years. This has based on existing debt, authorized but as of yet unissued debt, and funding proposed in the recommended CIP. Now I'll highlight a few departments with new projects in the CIP. Departments only appear in the CIP program if they have a project in the 6-year schedule. Two departments that join the 2025-2030 CIP program are the County Clerk's Office on page 8 and the Board of Elections on page 13, each of which have a new project starting in 2025. Both of these projects focus on upgrading how we maintain records accurately and digitally. The Clerk's Office is digitizing some of its oldest records to preserve them and to make it more easily searchable for their needs. The Board of Elections is planning to update their electronic poll book systems in line with best practices for electronic voting. The Monroe Community Hospitals funding plan, which begins on page 17, contains 8 projects, one of which is new, Friendship Place. The Monroe Community Hospital program accounts for less than 3% of the total capital program. Moving on to the Department of Environmental Services, the Pure Waters program begins on page 41. That program has 6 new projects introduced in this CIP, one of which, Northwest Quadrant Pure Waters District upgrades, is slotted for 2025 and 2026. The remaining 5 are scheduled for 2030. Pure Waters projects are funded solely with district funds. The Pure Waters program accounts for just over 34% of the total capital program this year. The Facilities Management Program begins on page 52 of your CIP. There are 3 new projects related to improvements to county facilities in the CIP. The County Facilities Program accounts for just under 13% of the total capital program. The 6-year program for county funding of the Parks Department begins on page 61. There are 14 parks projects in the CIP. 2 of these projects are new for this schedule and include drainage improvements at Durand Eastman, slated for 2025, and Webster Park improvements, slated for 2030. The Parks program accounts for just over 2% of the recommended capital program. The Department of Transportation Highways and Bridges program begins on page 71 of the CIP and includes 4 projects, 3 of which are bridge-related. The Walker Road Bridge and Weiler Road Bridge are both 91 years old and moving to the front of the CIP as they received federal funding, and they will be federally funded at the rate of 95%. The Traffic Engineering Program, page 85, has a new traffic signal project with the same funding structure. The DOT program accounts for 24% of the total capital program. The Sheriff's Program begins on page 96. There are 9 projects in the Sheriff's Program. 1 new project is introduced in 2025. This is the Sheriff's Body-Worn Camera Project, which is nearly 60% funded by New York State. The Sheriff's Program accounts for just over 5% of the total capital program. I will be happy to take questions when the committee gets to this item on its agenda. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gooch. Are there any speakers signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone here who would like to address the committee at this time? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the April 30th, 2024 meeting before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. New business. The next item on the agenda is new business. Mr. Clerk.
Referral 24
with the exceptions of the following referrals. 4-0151, 0162, 0163, 0180, 0181, 0182.
Moved by Legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by Legislator Smith. Any discussion?
And just so we're straight, I have 24-0151, 24-0162, 24-0163, 24-0180, 24-0181, 24-0182, and 24-0183. Correct?
Ready, okay? All those in favor? Any opposed? Next item.
24-0151, appropriating unassigned fund balance and authorizing contract with Monroe County American Legion Honor Guard for the purpose of purchasing automated external defibrillators.
Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Vasquez Simmons. Any discussion?
Gotcha.
Seconded by Legislator Dondorfer. Got it. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Next item.
It'll be on 24-0162, 2024 Annual Action Plan for Housing and Community Development in Suburban Monroe County and grant submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Moved by Legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by Legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? Legislator Baines, you have the floor.
Project number 5024 on page 83 of tonight's agenda is the Parrington Affordable Housing Project. And we are allocating $400,000 for that project here. The agenda tonight. For the development of 110 new affordable rental apartments and townhouses with 20 units dedicated to those with developmental disabilities. How is the $400,000, through you, Mr. Chair, how is the $400,000 applied project?
Through the chair, the funds would be used for hard construction cost only.
Chair, I didn't hear that.
Oh, through the chair, it's for hard construction costs for the development of the project.
So, through the chair, so the $400,000 is compensate the developer who is going to build these 110 units?
Through the chair, it's gap financing for the actual build of the property.
Chair, can you explain what you mean by gap financing?
Through the chair, it's a portion of funds that they were short with when you add up all the other funding that they are applying for.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, do we know who the developer is who's applying for this funding?
Through the chair, yes, it's home leasing.
Total, through the chair, what's the total cost of this large project?
Through the chair, I do not have that right in front of me, but I can get that to you.
Through the chair, would it be safe to say that 400,000 would be a small percentage of the total cost?
Through the chair, I believe we're a 1% of the overall development cost.
I yield, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item.
Referral 24-0163, adopt 2025-2030 capital improvement program.
Moved by Legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by Legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? Legislator Baines, you have the floor.
Could the Board of Elections talk a little bit more about the electronic poll book systems and what the $2 million in 2025 and $2 million in 2026, how it will be used to upgrade them?
Through the chair, this is a purchase based on the recommendation from the New York State Board of Elections. Our iPads were purchased in 2019, and those are 6th generation. I believe they're past 10th generation currently, and the state BOE is recommending that we upgrade because Apple will no longer be supporting iOS 17 in the very near future. And once that happens, it's basically like a ticking clock until they stop supporting the security on the current iPads we have. So this is just in an effort to stay ahead of that, and we will be putting this out to bid as any other purchase. And we haven't exactly decided on what e-poll book company we would be going with, but we will do our due diligence before we do.
Through the chair, what would you estimate the life expectancy be for the devices that we'll be purchasing?
Through the chair, I believe that will be the same as these current devices, which is 5 to 7 years.
Chair, to the administration, we have a debt service payment of $831,000 a year for this portion of the CIP. We're taking out debt to purchase technology. Is that fair to say?
Through the chair, yes, that is fair to say.
So, through the chair, so the bond life is 5 years, and it is quite possible that all the devices we'll be buying will be antiquated within that 5-year time frame?
Through the chair, not within the 5 years, but shortly thereafter.
I yield, thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Next item.
Will be on referral 24-0180. Authorize the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 564 Bennington Drive in the town of Greece.
Moved by legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Motion carries. Item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0181. Erroneous assessments, corrections, and cancellations.
Moved by legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? None. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0182. Erroneous assessment refund.
Motion moved by legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? None. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Referral 24-0183. Amend Resolution 24 of 2024 to amend the contract with Relcom for phone system and voicemail system licensing and support.
Legislator moved by, item moved by legislator Vasquez Simmons, seconded by legislator Bartholomew McCoy. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before this committee? Seeing none, there being no other matters, the May 21st, 2024 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will be held on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m.